At 3 a.m., Billionaire discovered a maid's daughter washing dishes. What he learned was life-changing. David stared out at the New York skyline from his penthouse, the city lights twinkling like scattered diamonds against the night. He had just returned from another extravagant charity gala, the kind where laughter felt rehearsed and compliments echoed hollow. Surrounded by other wealthy elites, he felt more isolated than ever. The clinks of champagne glasses and the murmur of pre-scripted niceties faded into the background, drowning him in a loneliness he couldn't shake. He yearned for something real, but all the money in the world couldn't buy him that. As he stepped inside, the silence of his lavishly decorated home was deafening. He shrugged off his designer jacket and headed for the kitchen, a space he rarely used. To his surprise, he found Maria, his housekeeper's daughter, standing at the sink. It was 3 a.m., and there she was, washing dishes with tired but nimble hands. She hummed a gentle, nostalgic tune that stirred something deep within him, a familiar warmth he had long forgotten. "What are you still doing up?" David asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Maria looked up, her eyes sparkling despite the exhaustion etched on her face. "Just catching up on some cleaning, Mr. David." Her smile was genuine, a stark contrast to the hollow laughter he had just left behind. In that moment, David felt a flicker of something. Was it hope? Something so rare in his world of opulence. He watched her scrub, the way her face lit up momentarily when the tune escaped her lips, and he realized he had forgotten what genuine joy looked like. As days passed, David found himself intentionally lingering in the kitchen, asking Maria about her dreams. She shared her aspiration to become a nurse, how hard she worked to help her family. Each conversation chipped away at the walls his wealth had built, exposing him to the beauty of resilience. He was transfixed, watching her navigate her challenges with quiet strength. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can, drop a like. It really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The transformation in David's life was nothing short of miraculous. Inspired by Maria, he became more involved in community work, attending charity events with an intent he had never felt before. The connection they built challenged every preconceived notion he had about class and privilege. He began to redefine success, focusing not on wealth, but on purpose. However, as he planned his largest donation yet to the local hospital, a scandal broke. Whispers among elite circles tainted his name, unraveling the very fabric of his newfound purpose. Just when Maria encountered her own difficulties, an unexpected family emergency that might require him to step in, David faced a choice. Would he preserve his reputation, holding on to the twisted identity wealth had forged for him? Or would he support Maria, the friend who had shown him a glimpse of life beyond riches? As the weight of his decision settled upon him, David stood at a crossroads. His gaze pivoted to the bustling city below, filled with uncertainty, an echo of Maria's spirit igniting a longing for transformation. Could redemption be found through selflessness? As the stakes heightened, he wrestled with the most important question he'd ever faced. Who was he without his wealth? David leaned heavily against the cool glass of his penthouse window, the glittering city lights blurring into a kaleidoscope of colors. He felt the weight of the world pressing down on him, a mix of anguish and uncertainty twisting in his gut. He had spent years building an empire, yet now it all felt fleeting, like sand slipping through his fingers. How could something so pure, a simple conversation with Maria, unveil the problematic life he had constructed? Every gala he had attended, every deal he'd made, now seemed empty. In those silent moments with her, he was reminded of the beauty in struggle, and it stirred a longing deep within, a desire to be part of something more meaningful. Rubbing the bridge of his nose, he sighed heavily. Maria's family emergency loomed before him, a relentless reminder of how quickly life could change. Would he reach out, risking the opinions of the elite who would judge him harshly? Or would he retreat to the safety of his wealth, remaining a prisoner to the lavish isolation he had known for far too long? With a sudden determination, he pulled out his phone, fingers hovering over the screen. Should he call Maria? A simple message of support could remind her of the connection they had forged. He hesitated, the old fears whispering doubts. What would she think? What if she didn't want his help? Just then, his phone buzzed, breaking his train of thought. It was a message from her. "Mr. David, my mom is in the hospital. I'm trying to juggle everything. I don't know if I can manage it all." His heart clenched at her words. He could feel the uncertainty in her message, the anxiety woven between the lines. Instinctively, he typed back, "Maria, I want to help. Let's meet tomorrow. We'll figure this out together." As he hit send, a wave of relief washed over him. He realized that vulnerability, though frightening, could lead to genuine connection. Perhaps letting go of the polished facade he had curated wasn't just necessary, it could be liberating. The next day, as sunlight streamed through his window, David reflected on the decision he had made. He put on a simple shirt and jeans, opting for a look that said he was ready to engage with the real world rather than the polished veneer of wealth. It felt refreshing. At the hospital, the sterile scent of antiseptic and the soft murmurs of concerned families created an atmosphere that felt both foreign and familiar. He spotted Maria in the waiting area, her eyes rimmed with worry, but lighting up when they met his. She rushed over, her shoulders easing slightly as she saw him. "Mr. David, you came," she said, her voice a mix of surprise and relief. "Of course. I wanted to be here for you," he replied, feeling the sincerity flow from his heart. They talked for hours, the conversation drifting easily from fears to the dreams that still sparkled amidst the chaos. Somehow, they found laughter, even in the shadows of their respective burdens. Together, they crafted a plan, mobilizing resources and gathering support from the community, forging a bond that was undeniably deeper than either had expected. But just as hope soared, whispers from the elite circles pierced their bubble. A tabloid picked up the story of his involvement with Maria, a simple act of kindness spun into scandal. Headlines screamed of betrayal and questioned his motives. His heart sank. Would this new challenge break what they had begun to build? David could feel it. The stakes were higher than ever. Standing beside Maria, he realized that this was the moment where he would need to confront the most difficult truth about himself. Could love and integrity withstand the fury of the world outside? As the tumultuous storm of public scrutiny loomed on the horizon, David took Maria's hand, silently vowing to stand by her side no matter the consequences. But did he truly have the strength to defy the powerful forces threatening to tear them apart? Finding comfort in each other's presence, they stepped into the unknown. Little did they know, the real battle had only just begun. The following day, the sun shone brightly, illuminating the chaos swirling around them like confetti caught in the wind. David's phone buzzed again, but this time it felt like a looming storm cloud rather than a ray of hope. A flurry of notifications from social media flooded his screen. "Billionaire in a love scandal," screamed the headlines. They didn't just tarnish his reputation, they threatened to rip away the very connection he had forged with Maria. "Did you see this?" David showed Maria his phone, his chest tightening as he watched her expression shift from worry to shock. "I never wanted this. It's just—" "I know," she interrupted, her voice steady, even as her hand trembled slightly. "People will talk. They thrive on it." David ran a hand through his hair, the weight of the world pressing down harder than ever. "Why can't they see that I'm just trying to help?" Maria looked at him, her gaze piercing through his turmoil. "Because they don't want to. They see a story, not a person. Not you or me." He felt lost in her honesty. In that moment, he realized that if he were to truly stand by her, he had to embrace the chaos rather than hide from it. "Let's face them together," he said, his voice suddenly resolute. "We can show them what we're really doing. Let's hold a press conference." Her eyebrows shot up, clearly surprised. "A press conference? You want to let everyone in?" "Yes, we can explain the situation. We're not doing anything wrong. If they want the story, let's give them the truth. We can't let them write our narrative." The rush of adrenaline infused his words with urgency. A plan began to form, yet a hint of fear still lingered in the back of his mind. "What if it backfires?" she questioned, stepping back slightly, uncertainty creeping into her expression. When has hiding ever worked? He took a deep breath, reaching for her hand again, grounding himself in their shared experience. This is bigger than us. If we're going to prove them wrong, We have to be brave. Maria studied him for a moment, a flicker of doubt still present. But as their eyes locked, that spark of connection ignited into a flame of determination. "All right," she finally said, squeezing his hand. "Let's do it." They spent the next few hours preparing for the press conference, crafting their message together. David found himself leaning on Maria's strength, her insights guiding him through the political minefield of media scrutiny. Each laugh they shared over a possible headline lightened the load of anxiety he carried. For the first time, he felt truly alive in the face of danger. When the time finally came, they stood side by side before the crowd of reporters, bulbs flashing and microphones thrust toward them like spears. David stepped forward, his heart pounding. The world outside had judged him harshly, but here, at this moment, it was just him and Maria, united against the chaos. "Thank you all for coming," he began, the confidence in his voice surprising even him. "I'm here to set the record straight. Maria and I are working together to support her family during a difficult time. My involvement..." A journalist shouted out a question, cutting off his thoughts. "What about the rumors? Are you in love with her?" The question hung in the air, thick and suffocating. David glanced at Maria, whose eyes shone with a mix of fear and strength. This was a defining moment. If he answered truthfully, it could spark even more outrage, but the bond they had formed demanded honesty. "Maria is an incredible person," he said finally, his voice steady. "And yes, I care for her deeply, but this is not about romance. It's about being there for someone in need." The room buzzed with murmurs. For every eye that turned in skepticism, he felt another spark of solidarity beyond the cameras. However, as they stepped off the podium, David caught whispers drifting through the crowd. "Just a PR stunt," someone sneered. Questions plagued his mind. Was announcing their bond worth the scrutiny? Would the world ever accept their truth? With each passing moment, the weight of public opinion pressed down like a vice. Maria leaned into him, her presence soothing yet electric. What now? David looked out over the gathered crowd, determination flooding his veins. Now we fight for our truth, and we do it together. But as they began to walk away, a familiar face emerged from the shadows, striking like lightning. "David," the voice interrupted, dripping with disbelief. "What are you doing with her?" The gasp from the crowd resonated like thunder. David turned slowly, the pit in his stomach growing. Would this moment change everything they fought for? Could it threaten the fragile bond they had fought so hard to build? A new storm loomed, and David realized they were just beginning to navigate the treacherous waters. With the stakes rising even higher, would they be able to weather the onslaught ahead? David's heart raced, his pulse quickening as he faced the unexpected figure emerging from the crowd. The familiarity of that voice sent a chill down his spine. It was Sarah, his estranged sister, who had always viewed him as a failure wrapped in privilege. Her wide eyes mirrored disbelief mingled with judgment, a potent mix that challenged him at his core. "Why are you here, Sarah?" he asked, forcing the words through clenched teeth. "Is this really what you want?" she shot back, diving into this mess with someone like her? Her finger pointed accusingly at Maria, who stood close by, her expression stricken. David felt a surge of protectiveness, the instinct to deflect Sarah's negative energy. "Someone like her?" he echoed, fighting to keep his voice steady. "You mean a hard-working woman trying to do right by her family? I thought you might support that." A murmur rippled through the crowd, intrigued by the sudden family drama unfolding. David's mind raced as his anxiety spiraled. The cameras were right there, capturing every tense moment. Would this escalate? Would Sarah destroy everything he had fought for? Maria squeezed his hand tighter, her comforting presence a stark contrast to the brewing storm. "Maybe we should step away," she started, sensing the emotional collision. "No," David interrupted forcefully. "This is important. I'm tired of being judged for wanting to help. What matters is who I choose to stand beside, not the opinions of people like you, Sarah." Her face twisted into a mixture of hurt and anger. "You think this is just about you? You don't even see the bigger picture. You're playing with fire. The tabloids are sharpening their knives, and now they have the perfect angle." Her words cut deeper than he anticipated. David turned to the reporters, their faces expectant, scribbling notes. What if she was right? What if this meant losing everything? His family, his reputation, Maria? He looked back at Maria, who had gone pale. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean..." Maria shook her head, a mixture of understanding and sadness in her eyes. "No, David, this is your family." She took a step back, releasing his hand as if the warmth of their connection suddenly burned too bright. "Not like this," he whispered, desperate to gather lost threads. "You're not in this alone, Maria. You never were. But there was too much tension, too many eyes, and the world felt like it was closing in on him. "Sarah, if you came here to help me, then help. Tell me I'm making the right choice." The silence stretched. Sarah's lips quivered, and he could see that beneath her tough exterior lay a sister who, despite everything, genuinely cared. "David, just think this through. You're not the only one who will get hurt if it all goes badly." "We've fought to be here," he insisted, instinctively raising his voice, addressing both her and the watches. "We're not hiding anymore." "Then stand up and face the music," she shot back, a defiant edge to her tone. "Not just for yourself, but for everyone else involved." David felt the ground beneath him tremble. The pressure of the moment, combined with Sarah's raw sincerity, prompted a flicker of doubt to rise within him. Was he risking too much? Suddenly, a voice broke through the tension. One of the reporters stepped forward. "David, are you saying this relationship is more than just public relations? Are you committed to this woman?" The probing question hung in the air like a storm cloud. David hesitated, the tightness in his throat stifling the words he wished to voice. The room seemed to lean in closer, waiting for him to disclose a truth that felt both terrifying and thrilling. Maria stepped closer again, her eyes urging him to trust himself to make the right declaration. He faced the crowd, their expectant eyes, their hunger for a story. The moment had come to define not just who he was, but who they could be together. "Absolutely," he finally declared, resolve creeping into his voice. "And I won't step back." A wave of gasps followed his admission, and for a moment time stood still. Would this moment shatter the fragile atmosphere built around them, or would it empower them to rise above the judgments? As whispers pulsed through the crowd, David stole a glance at Sarah. The flicker of disbelief in her eyes seemed to morph into something deeper, a mixture of worry and understanding. Maria was staring at him, a look of awe mixed with uncertainty edged across her face. Before he could unpack the gravity of what he just claimed, Sarah edged closer again. "If you're going to do this, then do it right, or you might lose more than you ever thought, David." Her words echoed in his mind, yet before he could respond, an unexpected uproar came from the back of the crowd, causing everyone, David, Maria, Sarah, to turn instinctively. Another figure was pushing through the mass of reporters, and once he pierced through, David's heart sank. His mother stood there, eyes wide with a mix of confusion and judgment, her voice cutting through the tension. "David, what is going on here?" And in that moment, David couldn't shake the feeling that what lay ahead could shatter everything he held dear. Would he have to confront the past he thought he had buried? What new revelations awaited? And would they have the courage to face the impending fallout together? David's stomach twisted at the sight of his mother, her expression a chaotic mix of shock and disappointment. The murmurs of the crowd swelled, a growing tide of curiosity that made the scene feel even more surreal. She had always been the one to uphold family appearances, and now she stood before him, ready to demand answers that he wasn't sure he could provide. "Mom, this isn't what it looks like," David began, his voice shaky but determined. "Then what is it, David? You're involved with her now? You're laying your family's name on the line for this? For a maid?" Her words cut, and despite the years of estrangement, the sting felt familiar. Maria's posture collapsed a little under the weight of the moment, which elbowed David hard in the gut. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about Maria, too, and her dignity was at stake. "Mom, he started again. "Enough," she interrupted, raising her hand like a traffic cop stopping a raging car. "You need to tell me what you're doing and why it matters to you." David glanced at Maria. Her face was a mask of confusion and hurt, and it made his heart ache. He couldn't just let this moment define their chances. He had to protect her. "I don't care what you think I'm risking," he exclaimed, allowing his frustration to cascade out of him. "I care about what I found with Maria. She is worth all of this and more." A few gasps floated through the crowd, the atmosphere thickening with tension. His mother's eyes narrowed as disbelief flickered across her face. Behind her, reporters strained to capture this rising spectacle, ready to turn every word into a headline. "Do you hear yourself? It's a great love story in your head, but in reality," she hesitated, searching his gaze, "you could ruin your entire future." "Maybe I don't want the future you have in mind for me," he shot back. "I'm tired of living up to expectations that stifle who I am. Just because I have privilege doesn't mean I can't choose my own life." Maria looked up at him, hope and fear dancing in her eyes. In that moment, David realized he couldn't let the mounting pressure and criticism choke them. "Mom, I want you to see Maria for who she really is, not just someone in the background. She's strong, smart, and so much more than a label. Can't you see that?" "David, life isn't a fairy tale," his mother snapped back, her voice rising. "You can't just wish things to be different because you like someone. Why not?" He yelled, the fight returning to his veins. Why shouldn't I want what I want? Why shouldn't I have the right to choose who deserves my love? A heavy silence fell. David's heart raced as he caught his mother's eyes, searching for something, a flicker of understanding perhaps. But all he saw was a wall of resistance, steadfast and unwilling to budge. Suddenly, a sharp voice came from the side, tearing through the silence. "David, for God's sake, listen to your mother." It was Sarah again, her earlier tone now laced with urgency. "You need to consider the consequences. What happens if this blows up in your face? Is that what you want, Sarah? For me to be afraid? For us to be afraid?" He turned to the crowd, the air heavy with anticipation. "What I feel for Maria is real. I'm not backing down. Not now, not ever." But beneath his bravado, fear flickered. What if he was wrong? What if this was the beginning of a collapse, not just between him and his family, but between him and the woman who had come to mean so much? His mother looked wounded, her mouth opening and closing as if she didn't know how to respond. David felt a knot tightening in his stomach. "Mom, just try to understand." While they stood on the precipice of something monumental, the crowd stirred again, a new wave of conversation snapping around them. David's heart sank deeper as he realized how much was at stake. And just when it seemed they could take a breath, another figure emerged at the edge of the throng, eyes fixated on him. It was his father, blending into the chaos, but finally making his presence known. David's heart raced again, dread washing over him. What would he say? Would it push David further away from the family, or could it be a turning point? David's mind spun as emotions tangled more tightly than ever. Would the family he sought to break free from be the very chain that pulled him under? David's heartbeat quickened as he locked eyes with his father, a man who had always embodied authority and control in their family. The air thickened with unspoken judgments and expectations, a simmering tension that could boil over at any moment. He had always thought his father would support him, guide him, but now it felt like standing on a tightrope, swaying precariously. "David," his father finally said, his voice calm but firm, "we need to talk." The crowd held its breath, the energy shifting as focus turned to the older man, eager for the drama to unfold. "But Dad, David started, his tone defiant. "Don't interrupt," his father commanded. The casualness of it cut deeper than any knife. David felt his gut twist tighter, a warning bell ringing in his mind. "Your mother is trying to protect you," his father continued, stepping closer. "You think this is just about you and that girl? You're mistaken. What you choose affects us all." Maria shifted beside him, her presence grounding yet electric. His fingers tangled as they brushed against hers, but David couldn't hold her gaze. He was too busy wrestling with his father's words, replays of what he had always expected: success, power, the golden path laid out for him. All of a sudden, it felt like a prison. "Protect me from what?" David yelled, unable to contain the rising tide of anger. "From my own feelings? From living my own life?" "From embarrassment, from shame," his father replied, voice low but layered with authority. "You think they care about you, this crowd? They're waiting for you to fall, for this to implode. And when it does, it'll be our name that pays the price." "But I'm not falling," David shot back, the flash of fear piercing through his bravado. Each word was a plea, a desperate attempt to make them see the truth. "This is real for me. Maria is amazing. She's not just some background character in my story. She's part of my life." "David," his father said again, softer this time, "sometimes what feels real is just fantasy. You live in a world that doesn't tolerate mistakes." The crowd murmured, a wave of voices skimming like stones across the surface of a still lake, sending ripples of doubt through David's heart. He could feel eyes on him, weighing him, dissecting this moment. "It's not fair," David whispered, the fight leaving him momentarily. He turned to Maria, who edged closer, trying to convey her own strength through her steady gaze. "It's just love. How can love be wrong?" "Love?" his mother interjected, her voice quaking as she fought against the tides of fear. "Is it love when you're putting it all at risk? You're tearing this family apart." Tears pooled in the corners of Maria's eyes, the words carving deep into her heart. David reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. No, it's a chance to build something new. It's about breaking free from the expectations holding me captive. His father's expression hardened, the battle lines drawn. And at what cost, David? You think the world will let you walk away from your responsibilities, your future, your legacy? That word hung in the air, legacy. David felt like he was standing at the edge of a cliff, staring into an abyss where his dreams either floated or were dashed. As silence descended, something stirred within David. He realized this was not just a confrontation, it was a defining moment. The battle for his freedom had begun. Could he carve out a path where love triumphed over everything else? Maybe I want a different legacy, he finally said, voice steady despite the raging storm inside. The crowd gasped again, the murmurs growing louder, electricity in the air as expectation thickened. And then, amidst all the chaos, a single question echoed in David's mind. Was love strong enough to withstand this fight? When he turned back to his parents, he found them studying him closely. Their expressions told him everything: expectation, worry, and an unexpected flicker of fear. What would they do next? Would they bend, or would they hold firm, trapping him forever? Everything hung in the balance. David swallowed hard, his throat tight with emotion. The murmurs from the crowd washed over him like a cold wave, the weight of their gaze pressing down. He'd never felt so exposed. He could see whispers exchanged, hands clutched, and eyes wide with disbelief, all reactions to his words ringing out like a challenge to the very throne his father occupied. "Do you really think it's that simple?" his father shot back, voice sharp as a knife. "What about your siblings, your place in this family? You risk everything for a fleeting moment of passion?" David flinched. The mention of his siblings was a blow. He had always been the protector, the one who would lead them into a bright future. But that future now looked like a mirror of his father's expectations, unbearable and suffocating. "I am not going to live my life according to someone else's view of success," he countered, heart racing. The adrenaline surged through him, igniting every nerve as he glanced at Maria. Her eyes sparkled, cracks of hope mirroring the light inside him. "Then what do you want?" his mother chimed in, her voice trembling yet filled with an urgency that promised a deeper conversation. "Is this what you really want? To throw it all away?" A surreal stillness enveloped the atmosphere. The crowd felt like a distant hum now, a backdrop to the real battle raging in front of him. David realized this was more than just about love. It was about courage, the courage to choose his own path. "I want to choose my own life," he said, scarcely believing his own words. "I want to fight for what makes me happy. I don't want to play a role. I want to be me." The silence felt electric, charged with hope and defiance. His father's brows knitted together, age lines deepening as the disappointment pooled around his features. "You think the world cares about your happiness?" he asked, voice dropping to a whisper, almost vulnerable. "You're naive, son. Love doesn't pay bills or build a future." "Maybe love creates the future," David shot back. He felt a fire igniting in his chest. It wasn't just about Maria. It was about the freedom to love who he chose and to live life with authenticity. Maybe love is what gives us the strength to face the challenges that life throws our way. The crowd was feeding off his intensity. He could feel their energy shifting, the whispers growing into a swell of murmured support. Then a voice piped up from the back. "He's right. You only live once." Someone else echoed, "Let him choose." A flicker of surprise shot across his parents' faces, and for a moment their power felt diminished. David pressed on, emboldened. "This isn't just my fight. It's about who we all want to be. Tradition isn't a prison. It should be a foundation. I want to build on that, not live in its shadow." The tension in the air shifted again, a fragile crack of understanding that David could feel trembling on the brink. His parents exchanged glances, uncertain if they should yield or stand firm. At that moment, David knew he had a choice too, to let the fear of failure guide him or to embrace the unknown. But how far was he willing to go to stand firm in his truth? As whispers and murmurs swirled like the wind, David felt a weight lift off his shoulders. He had spoken his heart, but at what cost? What would be left of his family? Caught in the reverberations of their silence, he wondered if they could ever truly understand him, or would they choose the safety of tradition over the risk of change? He held onto Maria's hand like a lifeline, feeling the pulse of possibility surge between them. The climax loomed, and the thrill teetered on the edge of confrontation. Would his parents finally see him? And could love emerge unscathed from the tumult? David took a breath, uncertain but ready. What would be the next step in this battle for his heart? The silence hung thick and palpable, a moment trapped between the present and whatever future might unfold. David could hear the quickening of his own heartbeat, each thump echoing his fears and desires. He glanced at Maria, her expression etched with both concern and encouragement, and braced himself for the next wave of emotions. His father stepped forward, the remnants of authority still clinging to him, but now mixed with uncertainty. "Do you really think you know what you want?" he challenged, his voice wavering. "You're still just a boy in love. Life is more complicated than romance and dreams." Each of those words felt like punches to David's chest. Boy? He was ready to fight for his life, for a future filled with genuine happiness. He stepped closer, feeling the warmth of the crowd fueling his resolve. "I am not a boy. I'm a man who wants to be happy, Dad. Happiness is not a luxury. It's necessary." Whispers threaded through the crowd, a collective surge of energy pushing back against the oppressive weight of his father's words. David could sense the shift, the growing support swirling around him like a wave. Voices began to rise, echoing his sentiment. "Let him choose. We're behind you, David." His mother covered her mouth, a single tear slipping down her cheek and glimmering in the fading light. "David," she said softly, "you must realize how much our family means to us. Your choices affect everyone." "I know," he replied, voice trembling with sincerity, "but I can't give up who I am. I can't keep hiding in a mold that doesn't fit." A ripple of agreement cascaded through the crowd, their solidarity resonating deeply in his heart. His father's face shifted dramatically. The sternness had cracked, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. "Sometimes we have to make sacrifices," he began, but David interrupted, urgency driving his words like arrows. "Sometimes rebelling against tradition is the biggest sacrifice." He breathed heavily, his chest constricting with the weight of this revelation. "I understand what family means, but at what point does it become fear? What if I lose the chance to grasp a life that truly brings me joy?" The crowd fell silent, and in that pause, the world stilled. David's heart raced with hope. Could this be a moment of change? One for him and perhaps for them all? It felt as if they were balancing on a knife's edge between the past and an unknown future. His father finally averted his gaze, seemingly wrestling with the tension within. In that moment, the distance between them felt both vast and very small. "What about your siblings?" he whispered, the fight in him fading like smoldering embers. "If you choose this path, who will take care of them? What will they think of you?" A flood of conflicting emotions surged through David. He loved his siblings fiercely and wanted to protect them from the burdens of expectation as much as himself. "They will see me finding my own path, and maybe they'll find the courage to do the same." The crowd absorbed his words, leaning forward, as if the weight of their shared stories hung suspended in the air. Hope sparked between David and Maria, igniting a shared vision of a life unshackled by fear. In an unexpected turn, his mother stepped forward, her eyes shimmering with conviction. "Your happiness is important, David, but can't we find a way to honor our lives and our family ties?" David felt something shift inside him, a spark of possibility. Their conflict could lead not just to a disagreement, but a new understanding. But as he considered what this might mean, the familiar dread tugged at his heartstrings. Would they be able to accept his truth, to forge a path together? His heart was racing, the atmosphere equally electric and fragile. "What if," he started, hesitating, then continued, "what if we can create our version of a family legacy, one that embraces all of us?" Amidst the murmurs, a new tension formed in the air, one that stirred excitement and trepidation alike. David felt as though they were teetering on the brink of something monumental. But would his parents take that leap with him, or would the past prove more powerful than the promise of a new tomorrow? The answer lingered just out of reach, hanging in the balance as he prepared for the next chapter of this profound journey. Could love and tradition actually coexist, or was he destined for conflict? And as the crowd waited, breath held tight, what would David's next move be? The air crackled with tension, and David's heartbeat quickened. Each second felt like an eternity as he searched his parents' faces, hoping to find confirmation of support, but all he saw was uncertainty. Behind him, Maria tightened her grip on his hand, a silent anchor in the whirlwind of emotion. Let's talk about this, his mother said, her voice rising above the murmurs.
We've always valued our traditions. There must be a way to combine those with your passions. We can work together. David wanted to leap at her words, dispelling the doubt that momentarily flickered behind her eyes. But how, he pressed, his voice fierce with determination. How can we combine the old with the new when the old feels like chains? I don't want to fight you on this, but I need to be true to myself. His father's face was a mask of conflict, the weight of generations evident in the furrow of his brow. It's not that simple, he replied, softer now, almost pleading. Change doesn't come without a cost. You think it'll be easy for everyone to understand? Your siblings, your grandparents, they expect you to follow a certain path. Is that what life is about? Meeting expectations? David's voice was raw, fueled by a mix of fear and desperation. If we follow blindly, we'll never find joy. I want to do what makes my heart sing. And I wonder, what about you? When's the last time you did something for yourself? Gasps filled the crowd, taking in David's provocative challenge. He felt a mixture of dread and exhilaration. This was the moment he needed. Maria's eyes sparkled with pride. She could sense it too. His father looked down, teeth biting into his lower lip, caught off guard by David's boldness. You don't understand, David. I'm not just your father. I'm also a father to your siblings. I have to look out for them. More tears welled in his mother's eyes. Your father loves them. They depend on us, she whispered, the vulnerability in her voice cutting through David's defenses. The wind shifted, and he felt the warmth of a sunbeam break through the clouds. Maybe the best way to protect them is to show them how to live authentically. I won't regret my choices, and I don't want them to regret theirs either. What if we lead by example? The crowd absorbed his plea, a palpable wave of hope washing over them. People shifted, leaning in, eyes wide with interest, whispering amongst themselves. David looked around and saw their collective yearning for something more, a life where love and dreams intermingled without fear. Couldn't we start a new chapter, one full of understanding and creativity? Tradition can remain, but it can evolve, just like we do. David searched his parents' eyes, pleading with them to see the vision he held tightly. Then, in an unexpected moment, his father stepped back, like someone who had just been hit by a sudden realization. And what would that look like? He asked, voice wavering with reluctant acceptance. That's something we can build together, David replied, speaking from his heart. A mixture of excitement and anxiety danced in the air. We can reimagine family, craft our legacy while embracing change. His parents exchanged glances. A flicker of understanding passed between them. The crowd buzzed, filled with curiosity about where this conversation might lead. David had offered them a chance, a way to reshape their lives. Let's find out together, his mother said finally, her tear-streaked face lighting up with tentative hope. But this will take time and patience. All right, but let's not just talk, David countered, energizing the moment. Let's make it actionable. Whether it's family gatherings where we share our goals or projects to support each other's dreams, let's start right now. Just when a new kind of excitement seemed to bloom, David noticed a familiar face at the edge of the crowd, someone who had watched quietly during the entire exchange. His heart sank as he recognized his brother, Noah, standing back, eyes wide and filled with confusion. Just how far are you willing to go? Noah challenged, his voice a low rumble that felt heavy amidst the fragile sense of unity starting to form. David's pulse quickened again, uncertainty gnawing at him. Was he truly prepared for this? Was he ready not just for change, but to support his family in facing it head-on? As he stared at Noah, a million thoughts swirled within him, but he understood one thing. They were just beginning. And in that instant, David realized their journey was only unfolding. What would it take to truly convince everyone of his path? Would they embrace it, or would they push back against this change? That question lingered as the crowd held its breath, waiting for the next words to ignite this moment further. What would happen next? David's heart raced in the thick silence following Noah's question. The air felt electric as everyone turned their attention toward him, waiting for a response that felt both monumental and terrifying. Just how far am I willing to go? He repeated, searching for the right words. He locked eyes with Noah, who seemed to represent everything he had fought against,
The expectations, the obligations, the same chains their father wore. I'm willing to go as far as it takes to live a life that resonates with who I am. I want to lead a life filled with love, not dictated by anyone else's dreams. A low murmur rippled through the crowd, each person processing the weight of his words. David's heart beat louder. He could feel the shift in the energy around him. This was an invitation for everyone to consider their own chains, their own dreams. What if it's about more than just you? Noah retorted, concern deepening the lines on his forehead. What if your happiness comes at the expense of others? David swallowed, grappling with the implications of every word. What are we if we deny ourselves? A family should support each other. Shouldn't we encourage each other to follow our own paths? Isn't that how we grow? Maria stood beside him, her presence grounding and reassuring. He glanced at her, hoping she could feel the hope that surged through him, the possibility for real change buzzing in the air. Noah's gaze softened, if only slightly.
David recognized the loyalty within him, the desires to protect their family forged in love, yet constrained by tradition. But a family is built on stability. It's our connection that keeps us together, he replied. David felt the urgency to shift their perspective. Then let's grow together. Let's build a legacy that celebrates everyone's voice. We can all have meaningful lives. Our dreams can synchronize. With each word, the crowd leaned in, their energy carrying a spark ignited by possibility. David pressed onward, emboldened. Think of the risks we've all taken for love or passion, for things that might have once seemed impossible. Maria took a leap into her dreams to support her family. She didn't let fear win. Shouldn't we all find that courage? Noah fell quiet, watching David with a mixture of apprehension and burgeoning understanding. The momentum began to shift, cascading like a refreshing stream breaking through the boulders of doubt. Maria squeezed David's hand tighter, a silent reminder of their shared journey. We navigate this together. We'll face the fears because love and family mean standing side by side, even when the storm rages, she chimed in, her voice steady and full of conviction. A wave of supportive whispers swelled among the crowd, a collective realization dawning over the moment. They felt it, not just for David, but for everyone standing there, reflecting their own experiences, ambitions, and fears. Hope pulsed through the atmosphere like a tangible force, uniting strangers from different walks of life. Noah finally stepped forward. I never really thought of it that way, he admitted, glancing at their parents, searching their faces for answers. I've always wanted what's best for this family, but maybe that's limited by my own view. Time hung delicately between hope and realization. David took the opportunity. He needed his brother to see the possibilities. So let's change the view together. We can redefine what it means to be a family that encourages one another to pursue happiness, to make mistakes, to learn, and to grow. A silence followed, a moment where everyone found themselves in reflection. Sarah moved forward, adding her voice to his. David's right. It's not just about you. It's about all of us. We've all sacrificed, but we should all get to dream. His parents exchanged glances. David could sense the weight of their existing expectations, yet also the cracks forming in their armor. His mother wiped away a tear, and his father's brow furrowed with contemplation. What if, instead of judgment, we offer support? David suggested, heart racing still, knowing the stakes. What if we laugh together in the face of uncertainty, instead of succumbing to it? A spark danced in the eyes of the crowd. With each word, the connection grew stronger, like threads weaving a new tapestry of shared dreams. David felt a swell of possibility, as if they were breaking free from chains that had bound them for so long. This could be the start of something incredible, he whispered, half to himself. Yes, Maria exclaimed, her voice bright and full of life. With that, the atmosphere shifted again, flowing toward a new horizon. David took in the faces crowding around him, friends, family, community members, all glowing with newfound conviction. Then let's make our family legacy one that celebrates each individual's story, Noah said finally, determination setting the line of his jaw. Let's build a future where we lift each other, not hold one another back. As waves of agreement rippled among the crowd, David felt his heart soar. This wasn't just about him or Maria.
It was about the possibility of a new family narrative. His mom took a deep breath and stepped closer. If we're going to do this, then let's commit to being there for each other. We need to start talking to one another, truly talking. A cheer arose from the crowd as the bond of family solidified before them, evolving and growing beyond tradition. David's eyes shone bright, a new chapter unfolding. Together, he voiced triumphantly, finding resolve in the melody of unity. Let's create a legacy that includes love, joy, a fighting spirit, and a place for everyone. And that moment encapsulated a promise, not just from him, but from the entire family and community present. With hope renewed, they found the courage to rebuild, changing the narrative. As whispers turned to cheers, David squeezed Maria's hand tightly, knowing this was the liberation they had both yearned for, a celebration of love and authenticity, intertwined forever in the embrace of family. Now it's time to take action. This is your chance to support the story. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to powerful transformations and inspiring tales. Don't wait. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find this journey of hope. Comment below with your thoughts, your feelings about this ending, and share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message. Don't wait, not even one more second. Your support is crucial, and only true fans understand the joy of lifting each other up.